And no, it was not calling Georgia Tech a bunch of sellouts.
Speaking of, here we go. Well, perfect segue. Georgia Tech has moved to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in 2025. I would like to credit the source. The source knows who they are. Credit. Good job. Nice job, everyone, on this. But Palmer, your opening thoughts. You and I were kind of texting about this as the news broke. It was obviously something that is for Georgia fans. I mean, like I tweeted this. Like for Georgia fans, this is awesome. It's going to be the 19th time you get to play in that stadium that year. It's going to be a lot of fun. You get to have a larger ticket allotment, I would imagine, as well. Kind of talk about from your perspective, what's your vantage point of the move for Georgia fans? What was the reaction?
For Georgia fans, they were pumped. I mean, a way to get more people into. I mean, this was called a home type series now. Georgia Tech is a bunch of losers, and it's a loser move to move your biggest rivalry game from your home stadium to a neutral site where I don't know what the ticketing process is going to be, but it's not a part of Georgia Tech season tickets. And thus Georgia fans are going to buy these tickets up. Not that they weren't buying up tickets at Bobby Dodd anyway, because that's all red and black when Georgia comes into town. But you know, I like I said, I think Georgia Tech is a bunch of sellouts, and you know, it's not that. Coming from a Georgia perspective, I know that sounds crazy to be like, oh, well, your biggest rivalry games played off campus and at a neutral site, you're a bunch of sellouts. Yeah, Georgia's been doing that for years and years and years. But, you know, I think that this move in Georgia Tech's mind is part of the new landscape of college football, and Georgia's is part of the traditional landscape of college football. They have traditionally played in Jacksonville, and people have learned to love that. Playing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium is just, you know, to me, it's like, why do it? Like, I understand the move from a money perspective, but, you know, I just think that it's a shame that this game is moving off campus. That's the best press box that there is out there, selfishly, now that Georgia has moved theirs. So I was always enjoy watching that game. I thought last year was a really great environment, and to move it to a stale environment like Mercedes-Benz Stadium is not going to be as special when it comes to clean old-fashioned hate.
Yeah, you and I talked about it. I mean, that was a great environment, you know, last year inside Bobby Dodd. The place was rocking. Yes, there were more Georgia fans there, but there was a contingent of Georgia Tech, especially the students, that were very loud. And made it a good home atmosphere for the Jackets. I'll say this, and I'll pass it over to you because you've got a different viewpoint of this, being the businessman that you are. You know, you talk about why, like the reason why, and you know, Jonesy comes back with one of the great all-time comebacks, I guess we could say, Palmer. He goes, "I think you have caterpillars for eyebrows," so there you go. You know, it is what it is. In all seriousness, I don't like it. Like, if I'm a Georgia Tech fan, I hate this. I'm tired of them playing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in terms of losing the art of a home game. Like, I hate that vantage point. But from a business perspective, I understand it. And I know we were talking about this right before we went on air. This is the necessary sacrifice that a program like Georgia Tech has to make in order to compete with the college football. Like, you would not see the Alabamas, the Tennessee. You wouldn't see an SEC school outside of Vanderbilt having to potentially do this. Like, Vandy might play a game at Nissan Stadium. Maybe. I mean, maybe. But
are they going to play Tennessee at Nissan Stadium?
I don't know. I don't know.
No.
Probably not. But to the point, it's a necessary evil that they have to do.
And Bryce, you're getting at what you're getting at is that Georgia Tech is bringing in more money and just accepting the fact that they probably would have lost this game regardless of where it's played. And from that perspective, I do understand that.
God,
I mean, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong that Georgia Tech is probably losing this game if it's at you're giving up your home field advantage because it doesn't matter, because you're going to lose regardless. And you'd say, hey, that's fine. We're going to take our money and you know, run. And that's that.
Yeah.
And I completely understand it from a business perspective, from a college football. You know, this is now the second straight time I'm coming on talking about college football and shame on the sport that we all love.
Yeah,
it's just another ramification of the world that we're living in college football now.
I want to say
it's almost like an acceptance. You're going to lose the game, and you're going to have less fans in the stands in your own home stadium.
But you're going to make more money.
Yeah, you are. You're gonna make a few more million for sure. But to me, there's some things that you don't do, and you don't give up a home game against your in-state rival. You don't give your in-state rival 3 straight home games, because that's essentially what this move does. You give Georgia 3 straight home games. We've seen Georgia fans pack out Mercedes-Benz Stadium countless times, and they're going to do it again for this game. And it really hurts the Georgia Tech fans. I'll tell you what, though, the spin zone on Twitter on this from the Georgia Tech fans has been incredible. I got to say, great work on the spin zone there. But it's been fun to read.
It's a necessary for a business perspective. And I think just with the background of knowing where Tech is in the landscape of college football, you understand it. And Palmer, to your point, yes, you're right. Like, this is something that you had to do because of where this sport is headed. This sport demands money now more than ever. Also, I would say it demands liquidated funds more than ever in terms of actually having something you can do. So, bottom line, I like Jay Batt as an athletic director. I like what he's been able to do.
What kind of a name is Jay, by the way?
Palmer, you are ruining tomorrow night's show for me talking about Georgia Tech Notre Dame, because I don't think people are going to want to tune into this channel ever again to hear about Tech.
I don't look. You were teetering already with some of the tweets you were getting today. People may not have watched anyway.
Like, I think it's brutal, but it's the nature of the beast. Like, this is the thing. It's the nature of the beast, what you have to do. Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to go full on defense mode, but I understand it, but it sucks. Like, they shouldn't do this, but they have to do it. Like, what's the alternative? Like, and I think that's the real problem here. Like, what is the alternative?
What does this say about Georgia Tech donors? I think it says really everything about them that this kind of comes. I hate to put the blame on fans and donors, but that's
that they allow this to happen.
They've allowed it to happen
because if an SEC school tried this, there would be an uprising. There would be, people waiting at the door of the athletic director and just, pitchforks. I mean, Tennessee fans got a coach fired before he was ever hired. They certainly wouldn't let a game, their rivalry game against Florida get moved to a neutral site, or Alabama get moved to a neutral site.
Alabama in Nissan Stadium.
No.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say that with Tennessee, or really, and there's not another school out there besides Vanderbilt that you could probably, give a fair comparison to, because there's an NFL team and an NFL stadium in town.
Yeah.
I mean, would Alabama go play in Birmingham against Auburn? They used to do it, but they wouldn't anymore.
They might. I mean, that was always a home game for Alabama, so it didn't matter.
Well, and I want to say
they wouldn't play it at Protective Stadium. Now, if they
I see the comment here from C. Andrew K. Georgia playing Florida at a neutral stadium, never. That's been happening for ages. That's not a move. It is a move that is done for money purposes, absolutely, but it's also a move that has some tradition behind it, and fans have, over years and years and years, have grown to love going down to St. Simon's and spending some time in Jacksonville, and the students embrace it. I mean, it's not a sellout move from Georgia.
I agree. I mean, there's a history, there's a tradition,
right? Yeah.
Of the Halloween weekend, typically.
In fact, if you moved it from there, people would be like, "Well, what the heck are we doing?"
Yeah.
This is a move made for recruiting purposes.
Yeah. Nancy says majority, and this is the icing on the cake. Nancy, I love you. You know that I appreciate you tuning in. Nancy, you're not wrong, but this is also part of what we're painting the picture here of. The majority of donors give to education rather than just football. because it's not what dominates. It's not what dominates. I mean, it's not what dominates Tech alums' mind. I've heard every single excuse in the book this week about this, like every single one. Well, our alumni base is spread out. While a lot of Georgia's alumni base is probably just staying in the state of Georgia. Like it. What does that have to do with anything? It's about the buy-in of the program, whether you really care about your football program or not. Georgia cares more about their program than Georgia Tech does. I'll say this, Palmer, and this will be the last we'll talk about it. We'll move to Georgia, Texas. I have called and I've said Georgia Tech needs to stop comparing themselves to Georgia. You will never be that. There's no point in ever trying to do that. But you can do something different and still be competitive. Be the best version of yourself. Worry about yourself and stop this, because it's never going to be that. There are just
how much
institutional things that don't allow it to be that.
What percentage of Tech fans would you say, and you probably have a better gauge on this, but what would you say the percentage of Tech fans that are upset by this move versus okaying it? Like, I don't know if that's an SEC ACC thing. I don't know if that's a Georgia Tech thing. I don't know what that is, but it sounds like that it's not as that it's more 50-50, if anything.
Man, Palmer, I tried to say this on Monday the nicest way possible. I sat at Tiger Stadium, 102,000 people. Unbelievable. You and I really didn't get to talk about this. Unbelievable atmosphere. And it really clicked with me then. It's just different. It's the intensity in terms of donors, fan support. It's just different. And that's what it is. And so for the ACC schools outside of like Clemson and Florida State, and you can laugh with you all you want about Florida State, they will churn out money for a new coach if Mike Norvell fails there. Like they will just do it, and it won't be an issue for them. Majority of the programs, the ACC won't do that because it's not the highest valued asset that their institution or their program puts forth. And
I'd probably throw Miami in there as well.
Miami as well, yes. So it's just not that important. And so I think it's an ACC. I just think it's an SEC in certain Big Tens. It's just a difference. And stop trying to be something you're not. Like you're not that. We've had a ton of comparison factors, the SEC and ACC. I think it's stupid to compare. They're two-way different leagues, two very different mindsets with what those leagues are trying to accomplish. And that's okay. It's all right. Be what you're going to be and stop worrying about it. But in retrospect, your question, wanted to get to it real quick. The Georgia Tech content creation sphere is a wild concept in itself. I will say that because there has been, and Will can speak to this because it's all been showing up on our social media fields, on social media spheres, I should say. Real quick, got to get to this. Miami fans, doesn't pay their stadium, doesn't matter. They got money. The people who want that program to be successful will keep trying to make it successful no matter what. It doesn't matter attendance. There's two words: brand value. 2 words. That's all people care about nowadays.
But hey, if Georgia Tech beats Miami, that's all that matters. That's all we're going to hear.
Them to in the preseason, so that's all I talked about. All right. So, anyways, Paul, let me get to this real quick, and then we'll move to Georgia, Texas, because I know you got to go. The idea that this whole thing is created, I would say it's a 50-50 split. Like, there's some fans that are mad about it, mad about the inability to get tickets, and then there's this younger that's the older fan base, which the older portion of this fan base, and I'm not meaning to insult. But, they think that the fact that they had Bobby Dodd on the field at one point 127 years ago still matters in recruiting. So, like, they're not really in touch with what's going on anyways. So then you have the younger portion of the fan base that's very adamant, like, you guys would be selling your tickets to Georgia fans, whether it was at Bobby Dodd, whether it was in Columbus, Georgia, or whether it was in, Statesboro. It wouldn't matter because you just don't care to go, which I think is a very valid point for people who are getting mad about this. You're going to sell your tickets to Georgia fans at a hiked up cost no matter what. So that's it. And Nancy, once again, I'm not, you are very well educated and you understand what you're saying. It's trust. You have to trust the process. It's just a different process than it would be at other programs. And that's okay. That's fine. So that's kind of my final thoughts. Anything else you want? There, Palmer? We spent 20 minutes talking about this.
A game that doesn't happen for over a year from now.